The Inunaki village is supposedly situated somewhere around the Inunaki Ridge, Fukuoka Prefecture, some 100 miles north of Nagasaki in Japan. The whole area around Miyawaka is regarded as a very haunted territory. Its incredibly dense forests and difficult terrain makes it an unforgiving area to venture into. The paths are narrow and can be tough to follow. The absence of houses and people gives the whole area a spooky character. And the many myths and stories about strange sightings and scary encounters within the dark woodland, attract all kinds of paranormal investigators, ambitious YouTubers, and teens just doing dare games. The hauntings are concentrated around the Inunaki Pass, and the tunnels passing under it. Because there are two tunnels under the hill to connect the two sides of the mountain. One is old and short, less than 100 meters. It's tied to the surrounding valleys through a narrow road with a lot of hairpin curves. The other tunnel is newer, wider, straighter, and much longer. Sometime in the early 1970s, a young couple was driving up the slopes of the Inunaki Ridge. They were heading for Hisayama on the other side of the mountain, and to get there from Miyawaka they had to pass a narrow road up the hill. Just before the Inunaki tunnel, a clunking sound was heard from the car. As they came out on the far side, the engine died, and they found themselves stranded. They noticed a passage on the right side of the road. So they left their car and headed up the forest to seek help. After a short while, they came across a handwritten sign reading "The Constitution of Japan does not apply beyond this point." The trail was getting more difficult, and overgrown as they continued, but a few hundred meters further in they suddenly entered a small village. It was a town like they had never seen before. It seemed abandoned, the houses were all dark and dilapidated, and nobody could be seen from where they stood at the entrance. They couldn't hear any sounds of people or animals. Even the wind had calmed. It was dead silent. They slowly ventured in on the main road, passing the shadows of the hovels. No one was to be seen or heard. The atmosphere was eerie. When they figured their curious hearts had had enough, and they decided to walk back again, something moved inside one of the houses. And suddenly a man stood on the porch of a big gray building not more than 30 meters away. "Howdy there. Welcome to Inunaki Village," he shouted. And with just a few steps, incredibly long and fast, he suddenly appeared right in front of them. "We love visitors here," he said. "We just don't like when they leave us again." And with a swift motion, he cut down the young boy from his neck straight down to the side of his belly with a sickle. The young man just looked at him astonished, before he collapsed to the ground. The girl tried to back away, but the old man seized her in a firm grip. He seemed to have some internal force that made his hands and arms stronger than anything she had ever felt before. With an almost inaudible groan, he lifted her straight up with one hand, and threw her down on the graveled street with such brutality, that she felt her ribs break. When the sickle came down on her, she turned her head towards the closest house. With horror, she saw what they hadn't noticed before. Behind and between the small buildings there were dead people, and decaying corpses all around. The reason for the silence and the darkness was that everybody was dead. Killed by the mad, old man with the sickle. He killed all of them, she thought as the curved knife extinguished her life force in one single motion. The crazy old man murdered them all. Nobody heard from them again. The white sedan still waits there, now covered with rust, punctured tires, parked on the side of the road, right where the small pathway leads into the forest.